Good morning, everyone. It's Weather United here, and in today's detailed update, we are keeping an eye on Hurricane Fiona that has winds up to 90 miles an hour and is moving over the eastern half of the Dominican Republic. Now, if you are new to the channel and you do like the detailed weather updates and content, please consider subscribing, hitting that bell notification icon, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media. Here's a look at the latest IR satellite imagery on Hurricane Fiona as it moves over the eastern half of the Dominican Republic, and we can see that an eye is briefly visible there before it kind of gets distorted as it moves over the landmass here of Dominican Republic. That's helping to weaken it a little bit, but it's not going to last too long. Still some pretty heavy, intense rain bands moving over Puerto Rico at this time. When we take a closer zoomed in view on what the system actually looks like, we can see we have a pretty impressive circulation. Of course, the eye is definitely not very well defined by any means. It's pretty much cloud filled at this time, but you could really make it out easily on the meso floater satellite imagery with that circulation and winds really strong coming through the strait here of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. And it's going to be worth noting if this is going to be able to re-strengthen on the other side. The longer it stays over this landmass and its tall mountains of the Haitian Peninsula and the Dominican Republic, this is likely to weaken quite a bit. Latest Recon data does illustrate where the center is exactly at, and of course, the plane can't find it because the low-level center and its eye is still over land right now while the plane is right here. It did find hurricane force winds somewhat pretty far from the center, actually, roughly 30 to 50 miles. With that orange that you see, that is 64 knot flight level winds. Surface frequency microwave radiometer winds are right in that ballpark of about 64 to 85 knots. And that's why the NHC that you're about to see here has upped their intensity a little bit. So here's a look at Hurricane Fiona on the National Hurricane Center, and we can see winds are at 90 miles an hour. It is moving to the northwest at now 8 miles an hour. There's hurricane warnings on the eastern half of the Dominican Republic. Now we have hurricane warnings on the Turks and Caicos Islands with tropical storm warnings there also. Not only that, we have this expected to hit Bermuda as a major hurricane, but how strong will it get still remains in question, because the longer, again, it happens to be over the Dominican Republic and it's weaker initially, it could end up being weaker altogether here. But still, the National Hurricane Center calling this to become a major hurricane possibly by Wednesday morning. And that, again, has winds up to 115 to 125 miles an hour over the next 3 to 5 days, kind of towards the end of the 3-day forecast. And then by the 5-day forecast, that's where it's at. And then by Saturday morning, it is headed really close to the Nova Scotia region of Canada. Tropical storm force winds, right now, we're looking at about 80 to 100% chance of those occurring on some of the Turks and Caicos Islands. And of course, the system's over the Dominican Republic right now, so there's a 100% chance of tropical storm force winds. Right now, there's an 80 to almost 90% of tropical storm force winds on Bermuda in the next 5 days, with a 20 to 30% chance of hurricane force winds on Bermuda. Not only that, the Turks and Caicos Islands, you have a 50 to 70% chance of hurricane there conditions. Also, for the Dominican Republic, you got a hurricane right now, so that's at 100%. Earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds right now, very hard to see this even, speaking of, for the Turks and Caicos Islands between 8 p.m. Monday and 8 in the morning on Tuesday is when you're likely to see those arrival times of tropical storm force winds. That is winds greater than about 39 to 40 miles an hour, and then arriving on Bermuda by about Thursday morning to Thursday night, right in that ballpark, and then possibly getting into portions of Canada there, like Nova Scotia, by Friday morning, when this will likely be an extratropical cyclone, not really a classic hurricane. Although the National Hurricane Center does not indicate that it would likely go under baroclinic transition, it is likely to still be a hurricane, but either way, it's going to be a very powerful storm for Canadian standards. So let's take a look here at our global models. We want to know with what the GFS is showing and what this could mean for Bermuda. So we're looking at the 850 millibar steering pattern. We actually want to see, actually, you know what? Let's take a look at the 500. That's a little bit better. So at 500 millibars, we can see our geopotential height. Here is our western flank of the ridge that is being sampled by the GFS model. Also, the Recon, the G4 aircraft that flew at 47,000 feet, also noted where the ridge actually is, with another ridge over the western or over the deep south of the U.S. But in between, well, you got a weakness in this ridge, which is right over here. And so when we go take this forward, you can see that the system is likely to find itself in a weakness in that ridge pattern in about 60 hours. So you got your ridge over here at 500 millibars. You got another ridge over here over southern Texas and the deep south. And you got your trough up here to the north, but this whole area is in a trough, and the system, again, is going to be able to escape in this general direction. But now as this trough continues to deepen, you can see with what's going to happen. Another one drops down, and therefore the steering flow changes more out of this general direction. And so the hurricane Fiona is able to actually move in towards kind of the northeast and the northeasterly direction as it gets caught within this troughy pattern that comes off the eastern seaboard and undergoes baroclinic deepening thereafter. So that's 5 days, and boy, that is moving very quickly. In fact, 5 days, it's not even on the map. So yeah, this is going to definitely be on the move as soon as it finds itself in stronger steering currents. We're not going to really worry about this today. We'll talk more about that if it stays on the GFS model run in days to come, because this could be our next area to watch. So an X marks the spot, something that we'll have to monitor in future model runs down there in the Eastern Caribbean. So 200 millibar upper level steering flow, actually no, upper level wind patterns. You can see here's your anticyclonic flow right over here. There is just a hint of that westerly and southwesterly shear on the northwestern and western sides of the system. So going out to 36 to 48 hours, we can see the shear does not back off at all. It might in fact intensify a little bit as the system is on the northern flank of this subtropical ridge here to the south. In fact, you're getting shear around this system quite substantially, and you don't really have much of an outflow on Fiona in 48 hours. This could play a critical role on how strong Fiona can actually get. And right now, it still likes it's going to deepen quite well. So in 84 hours out, it's approaching Bermuda. But again, it's still right in the way of this westerly flow, as you all can see here, or southwesterly, that is, with outflow channeling around this. So it is not in a very healthy environment. It's not super unconducive, but it is not super conducive either. Only a lot of moisture. Warm sea surface temperatures will allow this thing to at least intensify at a pretty good rate. But if it wasn't for those factors, then this system would probably struggle quite a bit, because it's going over Bermuda here at 948 or 945 millibars in about 4 days as it gets collided with that trough. We could also see where the shear is just by looking at our water vapor plot. Notice how all the green colors here are well lopsided, well weighted on one end, and that indicates we do have that westerly shear. We even got some drier air off to the west of this system, so we could see quite a bit of obstacles here. If this eyewall does not close up, well, they say it's closed right now, but it probably opened up because it's over land. But if it has a hard time reclosing off with more of this drier air that's going to be moving in, then we could be looking at a whole different scenario here than what's indicated on the GFS. But quite similar enough, the system is able to deepen. Let's do this. Let's go to 06Z. There we go. To 943 millibars with a lot of this moisture that is well indicated on the latest GFS model. One more model to show you is the HWRF parent run, and we want to look at this very closely because this is more of our outlier scenario. So here it is by this afternoon, by Monday, September the 19th. By September the 20th, it's near the Turks and Caicos Islands, and then by the time we go into Thursday and Friday, it is approaching Bermuda. Bermuda is really hard to see on this map, but it's at 939 millibars, so probably a little stronger than what the global models indicate. But then there goes your baroclinic transition there. You can take note as it gets into the Canadian Maritimes. We got this lot of moisture that is being shielded and being shunted to the north. Got drier air wrapping in around this, so a very classic extratropical transition here, and that's why I think the NHC will have to update that in their future outlooks by day 5. Now, if you found this information very helpful on Hurricane Fiona, please consider subscribing. It really does mean a lot to me when I make these videos. I also focus on the US when it comes to wild winter weather, severe weather, and other interesting things that happen in the US. Please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media, as it does help out a lot. Get the word out. Share this like crazy. All right? And I'll be back with you this afternoon with another detailed update on Hurricane Fiona.